everybody. Welcome to today's show. We have a good one for you as always, starting with some big news that has just taken place just around Sunday evening. A big rebellion from the New York Democratic senators in the state Senate, with the majority leader, the very influential and well-respected Andrea Stewart Cousins, representing the city Yonkers outside of New York. I guess you're calling, I don't even know. But she has called out for Andrew Cuomo to resign in a huge change of opinion. And as Andrew Cuomo continues to resist those calls, saying today, I believe, that he would continue to stick around. We'll also take a look at some of what has really, how he lost his grip on New York and how the governor is really seeing his once very strong circle of political allies shrink. Also, the news today that everybody is talking about. We'll give you a very up-to-date recap of the big interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that everyone's going to be talking about. After we will talk about the stimulus bill, a big part in there that's going to really change the way that the government kind of taxes you or gives you tax benefits for having kids, and Kristen Sinema's really kind of cringeworthy, just disgusting move on voting down the minimum wage, and her incredible political history as a kind of radical as well. We're also pleased to welcome today, as get Newsflash 491, Zach Lipschultz back with us, and Eli Brown. Guys, welcome to the show today. All right, so, so we're going to get right into it today with some very big news. Andrew Cuomo getting a potentially crippling defection in Governor Andrew Cuomo's efforts to maintain control amid a sexual harassment scandal. The powerful Democratic leader of the New York State Senate declared on Sunday that the governor should resign for the good of the state. That is the pretty stinging rebuke from Andrea Stewart Cousins, along with a similar sentiment from Assembly Speaker Carl E. Heastie, who questioned the governor's ability to continue to lead the state, suggested that Cuomo, a third-term Democrat, had lost his party's support in the state capitol and cast doubt on his ability to withstand the political fallout, because there is a pretty active impeachment effort being led by forces on both the right wing and the left wing, and these two, this is pretty much tantamount to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi coming out and saying that Joe Biden should resign. And if that were to happen, you have to imagine there would be the political window for Andrew Cuomo tonight has closed pretty significantly, guys. I mean, yes. Let's start with Eli, since he's kind of hasn't been around for a while. What is your reaction to this story? Did you ever think that this day would come?
I mean, I've always hoped this day would come. Ever since basically the summer, the fall, we kind of heard about the nursing home things. And I was like, that's kind of sus, at least for me, trying to cover up your poor leadership. And then the sexual assault things coming out is just adding fuel to the fire. So I'm glad that these calls for resignation are out.
Yeah, Zach, did you ever see this coming? Because, I mean, he's been so strong for so long. In terms of getting a
I never thought the day would come where Andrew Cuomo wasn't a popular name in New York. But I completely agree with Eli at this point. I have nothing to disagree with. I think the evidence for his resignation is overwhelming. And I think anyone who's saying what he's doing is okay is being disingenuous and possibly in bad faith.
Yeah, to nail down on that, what do you think are some of the biggest offenses here, both of you guys? Eli, you can go first. Do you see that the nursing home stuff, how do you weigh it with especially some of these two new allegations that came out this weekend that were a pretty big blow against him, the sexual assault versus the nursing home? How does that weigh in for both of you guys?
Definitely the nursing home as of right now, just because of how egregious it is.
Yeah. The
sexual assault things, he has excuses. I mean, we'll have to see where that turns out. But the nursing home thing, that's pretty solid evidence of corruption, of trying to hide data so his leadership looks better. I mean, that's really not okay. He should be punished for that.
Yeah, and definitely, like, really the insane thing to me there was, like, this kind of corporate liability shield that seemed to be, like, directly traceable to campaign contribution, like, that kind of just blatant out there political dealing. You don't really see that often. Zach, how do you, like, weigh these two twin scandals for Cuomo?
I think definitely there's the fact that the sexual assault thing is not proven 100% yet.
Yeah.
So, you have to take that in mind. But even if they were both true, I think the nursing home thing is way worse. I mean, the allegations against him, yes, they're uncomfortable and they make him look like not the best person or whatever. But at the end of the day, there was no physical involvement. I mean, the nursing home thing, he's literally like murdering not like literally murder, but caused the death of multiple elderly people. So I think you have to weigh that.
Yeah, you got to weigh that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not even like the original decision. Like a bunch of states in the Northeast made the same initial decision to put elderly people from hospitals that weren't experiencing symptoms back into nursing homes, even if they were COVID positive. But the fact that Cuomo tried to hide the deaths that he caused is the problem.
Yeah, and that liability shield for me, like, really, really sticks. That, like, there was for possible, like, the fact that it was very, very hard for people to get in touch with their loved ones in the nursing homes was another very big thing. But a little bit about this kind of political implications here, again, from the New York Times. In a series of interviews with the New York Times, Charlotte Bennett, 25, said that Cuomo, 63, had asked invasive personal questions last spring about her sex life, which, again, really do want to point out there, like, that is an incredibly tough situation. I think a lot of people, like, still in our culture don't really fully process and give enough, like, due to, like, how intimidating, how, like, scary it is to have your boss who's in such a powerful position, like, ask you those, like, super uncomfortable questions. But again, in terms of, like, I do kind of tend to agree with you guys about just how serious the crime of the nursing home situation really was. But Bennett is one of 5 women who've come forward in recent days with allegations of sexual harassment or inappropriate behavior against Cuomo, with one predating his tenure as governor. Cuomo, however, was adamantly resisting calls for his resignation, arguing he was elected by the people, not by the politicians. It always kind of annoys me when politicians who are just completely, like, don't care about the people any other time try to use that line to just play off as populist. He says, "I'm not going to resign because of the allegations." He called the notion anti-democratic and a violation of the due process clause of the Constitution, saying there is no way I resign. So it clearly seems to be...
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like...
that's like a non-statement. Asking for a resignation violates the due process clause of the Constitution? What?
I mean, resigning is not... You're not, like, going to jail. It's not like you're guilty of the crimes.
Yeah, what? Is he an idiot?
It really what it is, it's like it's a significant admission of defeat. And it's like someone like Cuomo, that's a very, very hard thing for him to do, I feel like. Just, like, come out and say, "Oh, I was wrong. I'm taking the fall for this." Like, I don't like very rare that he does that.
I mean, he is a tough guy, so.
Honestly, I think this is benefiting him. The whole sexual assault thing. I think this just distracts from the nursing home.
Yeah, honestly, like, that's such a serious, because hopefully both of those kind of get investigated equally, which I think they will. Like, you got Letitia James kind of like doing investigations on both of them. So the governor's statements on Sunday afternoon came not long after Stuart Cousins had informed Cuomo in a phone call that she was about to call for him to step down, according to a person with knowledge of the conversation. The governor then quickly convened his own news conference to preempt her announcement. So that is a funny little insight until even still, like, how just kind of scheming and how blatant he is in terms of kind of getting, like, one-upping certain people. He said that his remarks were directed at some legislators who suggest that I resign. So obviously Stuart Cousins fired back, releasing a statement not long after Cuomo concluded his news conference, saying, quote, "We need to govern without daily distraction." And she cited, good to see here, she cited both the allegations of sexual harassment and a toxic work environment, as well as his handling of the state's nursing home during the pandemic, saying, quote, "Governor Cuomo must resign." So Stuart Cousins is the most prominent New York State official to call for Cuomo's resignation. Her statement carries significance. Her Senate will be the jury for any impeachment trial of the governor if such an action were passed by the Assembly. Yeah, so it also is a pretty big deal here because in 2008, when Governor Elliot Spitzer resigned during a prostitution scandal, his decision was partially precipitated by a loss of support from Albany's legislative leaders. So Heastie kind of stopped short of that. He suggested that it was time for him to seriously consider whether he can effectively meet the needs of the people of New York. So pretty much a determining, like, kind of a cowardly thing to say, just like, at least say it. If you're going to say it in all but name only, but yeah,
would
very.
there be an election
What?
if he resigned, or would like the lieutenant governor?
Yeah, lieutenant governor would probably take over
Yeah.
to the end of the term, and like some of the, I do before we're gonna get into more like reporting on this, like I don't know if you guys have seen any of the Twitter stuff about this, but some of the excuses that people are having here are just absolutely hilarious. Like, I have to there was one who was like, it's very funny how this is the time that like this is they seem to think that like Cuomo's about to drop indictments on President Trump, and he was the only one that could do that, and the Republicans are trying to take him out at this time.
Yo, you got to look at yourself and be like, damn.
Yeah, I think
sound like a Trump supporter right now. What the hell's going on?
yeah, like that's literally like talking about talk about QAnon, like you're talking about secret indictments coming any day now that is going to turn this whole thing around and prove it's a political plot. Like think about what that sounds like. Like if that's not QAnon to me.
Some conspiracy. Is there no recall system in New York? I was just looking up because I've heard there's been a recall, like a call for a recall in California, but I'm just reading there's no recall system.
Conversation earlier.
There's no recall system in New York State. That's kind of weird.
We were actually questioning whether that system existed in New York, so thank you for answering our question. That's unfortunate. I don't know.
So I guess the only way, I mean, I guess you mentioned impeachment, but
It's unrealistic though, and the trial would be long.
it's if you have the Senate Majority Leader and the House Assembly guy coming out and making statements like that, it looks more and more possible. I think it definitely would be the only way to get him.
What would even the trial be? Like, he maybe sexually assaulted this woman, and then
the nursing home
there's
stuff.
potentially a contract.
I mean that's why you need the recall system. Like in basically I'm pretty sure every other state you can have like a special election to remove a governor.
I think California is weird like that. I'm not sure though.
No, I think recalls.
I think every other. It can't be every other. There's
not every other state, but like I'm pretty sure more states have recall system.
This is a tweet from a guy who's kind of a little bit of a meme on Twitter as a kind of like resistance lib type guy. His name is Brooklyn Dad Defiance ! And he says the only person who could pardon Trump from a conviction in New York is the governor. Kind of makes you wonder about timing.
Wait.
So what he's saying there is Kathy Hochul, like the Democratic lieutenant governor who would step in if Cuomo was to resign, would like pardon Trump. Like what is that? What does that even possibly mean?
That seems like cap.
Yeah, this is a response to that. Exactly. Wake up, America, before it's too late. Trump is attempting a Hail Mary pardon from New York State, and this is the first step to achieving that.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
And people are like, yes.
These people really are like lib QAnon.
Yeah, it's really insane. Like,
I just did some Googling, and about half the states have a recall system or a recall vote for governor.
So if the recall gets enough petitions, right? There's a ballot, and then they vote to remove him as like a populace.
Yeah, that's correct.
Interesting.
I think you need to get like a bunch of signatures, like maybe like it depends on the state, like either 12 to 25%.
California, I don't know what 12% of 39 is. What, like 4 million something.
Yeah, and you have 160 days to gather 12%, and then there's a recall after you submit it.
That's gonna be hard.
I mean, 12. I think they could get 12%.
Maybe
signatures, but I don't know if they're gonna remove the California governor Newsom.
No, they're not, because it's a pretty democratic state. and also he didn't really. I mean, he is a dumbass and like also a complete hypocrite, but I don't think he's unpopular enough to get.
I don't.
I mean,
I don't
he's
know.
really unpopular with the small business owners.
Yeah,
That's
there's
true.
a pretty strong contingent there that would be skeptical of him, but it would have to be a pretty high amount, and yeah, because like it's insane. They've had such like intense lockdowns there, but they have still managed to, at least in LA, they have been brutal there, and just like it's the Hollywood sickos at it again. What can I say? But I don't know. That would be definitely a very interesting thing to examine. But back to this very, very interesting report here from New York. The New York Times here kind of describes how, as 3 women step forward with claims of sexual harassment and other unwanted advances by Cuomo, the most visible governor in America effectively went dark. After one of the women detailed her accusations in a against the governor Medium post, State Senator Liz Krueger, a Manhattan Democrat, decided that she would come out with a statement calling for an independent investigation, an implicit rebuke of Cuomo. She reached out to the governor's team to alert them aware of the typical angry response, and she was surprised when she said that no call came. None of my colleagues have said they've even heard from the governor on this because of Krueger said of the harassment allegations. Like, really no defense has been offered by the Cuomo office. Like, it's very, very much, very, very common. You're going to get a call from the governor's office if you even speak about him publicly. That's life for New York State senators. It's just what you got to deal with. At this really great moment of political peril for Cuomo in his decade in power, interviews with nearly 24 Democratic lawmakers, strategists, and Albany veterans paint a portrait of a governor who is increasingly isolated as he faces this federal inquiry into his administration's handling of the nursing home deaths during the pandemic and an independent investigation into harassment allegations, making his political path forward more challenging by the day. So, Rachel May, a Democrat from Syracuse, says that if the nursing home report was true, that everyone lying to the public and to the legislature must resign immediately, and that includes the governor. So that's someone from Syracuse. But really, the most important thing, as we talked yesterday on the show, would be to really take a close eye and look at some of these more suburban areas. These are going to be the areas where kind of Cuomo has held most of his support, kind of like moderate, more maybe even wealthier areas in the state, where you see their state senators start to go, then that is quite significant. And Manhattan, Liz Krueger, with that aggressive take, so she represents the, I think, Upper East Side there in Manhattan. But some people who have spoken to Cuomo in recent days have described him as shaken by the speed of which the political fallout arrived, with the dueling scandals and the reports of his bullying behavior all converging very publicly at once. Yeah, I mean, like, this has been a really kind of incredible, like, this is a great example of, like, the classic American tradition of, like, the farther they rise, the further they fall, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really fascinating to watch. What do you guys think happens from here on out?
I think we just wait in the week to see, like, how much further the outrage gets, and then hopefully we get a public resignation, but I think what's more likely is a fizzled out impeachment attempt.
I mean, yeah, I think. Go ahead.
There's no way he resigns. There's no way Andrew Cuomo will resign. He's either going down. He's going to go down with a fight. That's what's going to happen.
But the thing is, they always say that until they end up resigning, and like it would be, I think, kind of in a very similar way to Trump. Like, he would much rather just go quick and and avoid the pain of an impeachment if it was clear that it was going to go in one particular way. But that is the question. Is there that critical mass of state senators who would want to kick this guy out? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. So, longtime advisors and allies have helped the governor navigate a series of crises and offered some advice. Those include 2 top former aides, Stephen Cohen, not the hedge fund guy, the former secretary to the governor, and William Mulrow, another former secretary to the governor who now works at the private equity firm Blackstone. Melissa DeRosa, the governor's top aide, Cuomo's pollster, Jeffrey Pollock, and Beth Garvey, special counsel to the governor. The result on Wednesday was an uncharacteristically rattled chief executive who delivered an emotional apology for his conduct, said he never touched anyone inappropriately, and did not intend to resign. palace intrigue aside, there's a job to be done, and the New Yorkers elected the governor to do it. So it's just saying we're focusing on the vaccines, but it seems to be quite like it's not really just skating over everybody in the Cuomo office as they would like you to believe. So people who have been in touch with Cuomo's team describe some staff members, in particular the younger ones, as demoralized and exhausted as a series of controversies play out on top of a year navigating COVID-19 in an exceptionally demanding environment. I really don't feel that much sympathy. I feel like your idea of like, I'm going to move up in the world and I'm just going to join the Andrew Cuomo office. Like, I mean, sorry. You're probably dealing with a lot there already.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, it technically is like it's the governor of New York, but still, like working for Andrew Cuomo would just like not be fun for me.
It's not the nicest human being.
Yeah, it's just
in existence.
If you're governor of like a state, you can't be like the nicest guy. Come on.
Hey, Charlie Baker, he's pretty nice. He went to my high school. I like him.
No, there's plenty of nice, like you can still
you don't even know him though.
Treat your staff with like respect, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's like a common. I would assume that would be a common courtesy to respect the people working for you, but I guess not under Cuomo.
Yeah, like respecting the people who are like under you is a really it always has been like in a lot of situations a great indication of your character.
I mean, I can understand disrespecting your opponent, but don't disrespect the people that work for you.
Yeah, like the people who are there to like help you like through and like believe in your message, especially if you're a politician. So, donors, who the very, very important political force that, as we know, drives so much in state politics and just in politics in general, some of whom embrace Cuomo as a moderating force in the party, began to worry about his future. And a person close to Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul described a uptick in outreach to her office from political figures around the state, an unmistakable sign of uncertainty about Cuomo. I gotta imagine how she's feeling, like, oh, hey guys, how's it going? Like, it's be fun talking to you. Like, donors, what's up? We'll have a nice dinner. Yeah, so at least now many Democratic voters appear to see the dynamics concerning the governor differently, a reminder that the political impact of the controversies is fluid and unpredictable. Because, like, as long as there are people out there like Brooklyn Dad, like, it's hard to imagine that Cuomo's going to go anywhere. But, like, if they could just break this, like, snap of this kind of, like, ideology that they have here, if any further people come forward, I think it would be the right time for him to resign, says State Senate Majority Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins on Spectrum News' Capitol Tonight this past Thursday. And now more people have come, and she's called for that resignation. So the governor's in trouble now because he's a very tough guy, and there are many people who don't like him, says George Arst, a veteran political consultant who has known Cuomo for years. He doesn't have that reservoir of friends and good feelings to sort of push back. At this point, you don't see many surrogates out there, and that's a problem. All right, so that's kind of an update on what's going on right now in New York. We are going to take a little bit of a trip across the pond to talk about the royal family. That will be in just 1 minute. Until then,
well, now they're not across the pond anymore. Now they're in
Canada, they're in
right?
California talking to Oprah. All right, we're going to play this little clip here, and we'll be back in 1 minute. SWRN has so much going on to tell you about. We, of course, have to start with Newsflash. We continue to make the grind to our 500th episode. That'll be on Sunday the 28th with a big panel special, bringing back some of your favorite Newsflash contributors. Until then, we'll be on the air, as always, every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday with that show. We started up our supplementary programming with a special all-new redesign edition of Uncultured Design to highlight some of the most interesting parts of hip-hop, whether it be past or present. And, of course, we are working on that brand new season of Hidden History, continuing telling the stories we told in Season 1. Spencer Walsh Radio Network. Listen today on Spreaker.com/TSWS. That is just a little bit of indication of what's going on in the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. But we do have some very interesting things going on over in CBS. In a 2-hour interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan Markle made the dramatic disclosures, including how there were concerns in conversations about how dark her son's skin may be. So we're going to go through some of the big ones, as it is just official today that Meghan and Harry revealed that Archie is going to have a sister. That's the Archie Harris Mountbatten Windsor. Like, those are just some demonic names. That's a
collection of names right there.
Just like that. There's just like the kind of just really just the things that the people bearing those names have done in years past. Like, just like this poor little baby. But yeah, it is going to be very, very interesting to talk about this and just look at what has been going on. It's like really interesting royal drama. I honestly don't think I would be this interested in this interview if I hadn't watched The Crown beforehand. But that certainly helped it. Apparently they've had a watch party at Northwestern where Meghan Markle graduated in 2003, and Summer Fall.
She went to Northwestern?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
She's smart.
It has been. It's very, very rare when we see like this kind of like interview happen where we see a royal kind of step out and tell the truth. So famously, that was with Princess Wales, Diana, the Princess of Wales. She had talked to the BBC in 1995. This was after she and her husband, Prince Charles, had separated but not yet divorced. It was really riveting television and infuriated the Queen. In a carefully modulated tone of wounded sorrow, Diana revealed that her marriage had been doomed from the start because there were 3 of us in it, in reference to Camilla Parker Bowles, Charles's longtime lover, who, if you believe what happened on the ground, which I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh no, you can't believe it, it's fake. She was pretty much saying that she was cheating. She was being cheated on from jump. And it was very, very rare that they could have done it. Meghan says that she didn't Google her husband at all before meeting him, and she hadn't followed the saga of Charles and Diana. She just kind of walked in this whole royal family thing like, what could go wrong?
Wait, how did she meet him? Did they say in the interview?
I don't know. I don't know if they really went over it, but
that always like surprises me. Well, as like civilians are marrying like royals now, like how do you meet someone like that?
Yeah, like it's just like I think normally it's just like high society figures and like they mesh and like Harry goes to a party.
Didn't like Kate and William meet at like a mall or something? Or maybe I'm making that up.
Is that so? I don't know. How did Harry and Meghan meet? According to the Times of London, the two met in
blind
March.
Date? How do you get a blind date with the fucking Prince of England? What the fuck? Who are her friends?
Apparently, Violet von Westenholz introduced Prince Harry to Meghan Markle.
Wait,
like that's the
that
most
is actually insane.
Violet von like someone who's like an aristocratic like. So if you've ever been dreamed of being set up with a prince, falling in love with them, and getting engaged, while becoming a bona fide princess, then the stories of Kate Middleton, Princess Mary, and Meghan Markle might be your favorite ways to meet your future. She said a close childhood friend of Prince Harry's, a well-placed source confirms the pair were matched together by Violet von Westenholz, whose father is a baron and good friends with Prince Charles. Harry was having a really hard time finding anyone. It's hard enough finding someone new to date. He can hardly go on Tinder or a dating app like normal people, but it's but to meet someone you actually connect with was proven to be almost impossible. So that's how they met there. But yeah, it was a really kind of crazy situation. Another bombshell was referring to her sister-in-law, Kate Middleton. Meghan is addressing widespread rumors that she made Kate cry during the preparation of the wedding. That is not true. Meghan says, in fact, the reverse happened. Kate made her cry a few days before the wedding. She was all set up at the flower girl dresses. And,
oh my God, I hate to say this, but
who cares?
Women, my God, Jesus Christ.
Especially with this like ridiculous stuff about the wedding. Cry. Like, oh my, how can you care this much dramatic about the wedding?
She made me cry. Oh, can you imagine complaining because another person made you cry? What are you for? Jesus Christ.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't know. I feel kind of bad for
I mean, it must be kind of tough for her. I mean, like, it's not easy for her to give up her. Like, didn't she have to give up like a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, she had to give up like her completely normal life. She like couldn't drive. She didn't like cook. She couldn't. She was like, I couldn't take an Uber to like go to the hospital. Like she wanted to like check herself in to what's her name? She wanted to check herself into a hospital, but the monarchy were like, no.
No.
So yeah, Meghan was now discussing relentlessly how horrible the tabloids were when she was dating Harry. It's worth pointing out the tabloids were equally horrible to Kate Middleton, the pre-marriage portion of their relationship. In her case, it was over class. They mocked Kate's mother, who had once worked as a flight attendant, reporting William's fancy friends referred to her with phrases like "doors to manual" and "cross-check." Oh my god, who even cares about this stuff?
Wow, holy shit, that's fucked up.
It's like,
who the fuck cares about class these days? Oh my god. I mean, unless you're like fighting the bourgeoisie, but
yeah, like all these people are just the worst. Like, honestly, you gotta shut down this whole thing. It's really gonna be hard to dismantle because like all these people, you got like the royal family, and then you got all these like kind of network of like hanger-ons who are just like all making stuff
like
worse.
Rich aristocrats from like their parents, grandparents' wealth or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean the British newspapers here continue to cover themselves in glory. They've been recycling old complaints and unveiling some new ones about the Duchess of Sussex and her supposedly impossible diva-like behavior in England. Apparently, she was yelling, sulking, complaining about the outrageous demands, and there was complaints about the outrageous demands that have been circulating since she became engaged to Harry. Apparently, she turned into an American bridezilla, shocking royal aides with her demands that they douse St. George's Chapel with air freshener to alleviate its musty smell. So that was the.
I don't believe anything the British tabloids say. Like,
no, nor should you. Like they're complete. Like the reports that have been in that like for years, like that Kate or that whatever Meghan was crying, like turned out to be complete opposite.
Well, I mean, she could be lying, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna believe a British person over an American, especially an American who's in Suits.
Yeah, Suits. Did you watch Suits?
I did watch Suits, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Was she good on Suits? Was she a good character?
Yeah, she's pretty good in Suits.
Huh.
Anyway, let's get back to the topic.
Anyway, so yeah, they're having a child. They're having a girl. So apparently, that when he and Meghan were talking about the terms in which they would leave, Harry and Meghan were their senior royal status. Apparently, they're saying, "Oh, we really wanted to continue working with the family. We wanted to continue like being part of the royal life." His father, Prince Charles, who really, if you watch The Crown, like he is not portrayed well in there. He stopped taking his calls because it was just an embarrassment of a son. To have. And yeah, he was always talking about how much he hated Diana, and Diana was trying to do everything in the crown and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like 3:30 right now in London. This interview is just getting on the air. Just like all these poor British, like the British newspaper writers probably like blacked out drunk already. Like they're probably asleep, so they're going to miss it. But it probably, I think the most shocking revelation that came out of this was, I mean, it even shocked Oprah. Meghan offering a secondhand account of conversations Harry had with his family, like real royals, not just royal staff being insensitive, but his royal family members on the subject of their unborn child's skin tone. During the 2-hour primetime interview with Oprah that aired, there was apparently concerns about how dark the skin tone would be. And you could
I didn't realize the Queen was racist.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if it could be the Queen. People are saying, "Oh, it's Prince Philip." Like you could imagine, it's like, "What color would be the baby?"
Right now,
it's going to be one of the older ones, probably.
Yeah, most likely. I would say Philip or like the Queen, just kind of like being awkward. But yeah, just like you could just pick. Like they were literally, the British press was literally trying to blame Meghan for like killing him. Like if he dies, it'll be because Meghan's interview like had his heart give out. Like
put him in so much stress.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Actually, like,
British people in their royal family.
British journalism is like if everything was BuzzFeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's a good analogy.
I mean, not if everything was
around the
royal
family.
Yeah. If everything was
No,
TMZ,
it can't be that bad,
you know,
really.
it is that bad. It is so bad. Like the Daily Mail is like TMZ, the Sun is like TMZ. Like there's like the Star and the Express and even the Times, which is like the Wall Street Journal of Britain, like made up that kind of BS about they're bullying like allegations or something. It was really kind of a rough situation. So, 3 years ago, as Britain was in a confectionery haze preparing to celebrate Prince Harry's wedding to Meghan Markle, the television presenter Piers Morgan made a comparison that could only be described as foreboding, saying, quote, "If Meghan has got a couple of kids and then decides to take them back to California, she would make Wallace Simpson look like a Tea Party." He was talking about the Baltimore divorcee whose love affair with King Edward VIII prompted him to advocate the British throne. Simpson died in 1986, but she remains one of the most hated people in Britain, widely viewed as a grasping, ambitious manipulator. She was in the crown as well, and she also had the slight character flaw of going on vacations with Hitler, and King Edward VIII was no better.
It's just because British people don't know what love is,
and like especially
from them.
Like the that's what we don't even talk about. Like the monarchy, like the people associated with monarchy, like they don't even know what emotion is. They don't even know like feelings or relationships. Like that,
it's hard to kiss when your massive teeth get in the way.
It's just like there's some weird things about that going on for sure. And an unexpected development, Meghan revealed that before their official wedding, she and Harry had gotten secretly married, courtesy of the Archbishop of Canterbury, in a backyard ceremony. So that's kind of nice that they were able to do that. It feels like Meghan came into Harry's life at the moment when he might have been trying to find a way out of the quote-unquote firm. He apparently wasn't liking it. He had always had deep issues with the British press. He was interesting talking about the invisible contract between the royals and the tabloids in exchange for access for favorable coverage, pretty much a protection racket. Because, if they had the power, like the Sun could make the royals look incredibly bad. Like the royals get their credibility from positive portrayals in like all of Britain's media in no small part. So it really has been interesting to see it. Like many people are saying, like this is a threatening time 100% for the monarchy. Queen Elizabeth offered a unifying message in a speech that happened to precede the royal TV appearance because it was Commonwealth Day. Because it was like, oh yeah, we still own all these countries for some reason or have some like economic ties. We can't let go. We can't let go. Another big one was that Meghan said that she sought help from the palace for suicidal thoughts, but was rebuffed. She said, "I didn't want to be alive anymore." And that was a very real and clear and frightening and constant thought for me. I remember. I mean,
being a royal sounds like a horrible life, honestly.
Yeah, like it's so hard to have like real emotions, Like
it sounds like ridiculous, but it almost feels the way she's describing it, and like I guess a way that's sort of easy to understand is like it feels like a prison in a way. Like even though like. Yeah, like you're pampered for, I guess. Well, she was like already sort of rich, because she was a celebrity, and now she's just like trapped in this like weird life where like it's live in these weird British places and like do all these weird fucking events, and like her kid is like, I don't know. I mean, like being that much of a celebrity is, I don't think. Even like Brad Pitt probably has more privacy than
yeah, and like if you cross your legs wrong or you bow too low or something like that, then everyone thinks like you're
the constant
insane.
Criticism of the media. It's like a weird sort of fame because like I wouldn't say just on like a surface level like they're the most famous people in the world, but like they do get a special sort of criticism that is actually reserved just for them.
I mean, and there's really very little benefit to it, like unless you're like the right person who everybody likes. If not, then your life is hell and you're just like cast out if you don't like completely fit the mold.
Yeah. Also, you have to think about the fact that I don't know if she's ever lived in any other country, but it must be tough.
And then there's the whole like race element with the conversations about the baby and all that stuff. I mean,
I don't even understand I don't even get that from like a pragmatic perspective. Like Meghan Markle is not that dark skinned.
Yeah, I mean, like, it just I guess if you put it in comparison to like the rest of the
if that's really your standard, that's so fucked up. Also, like, what the fuck would be wrong with having like a black baby? What that's so messed
just
up.
for the people in those positions who just spent years like ruling over brown people to have one in their like very own house, like, you know, like you have to imagine the mindset there is just nothing good, like. Because like these people, they're living in an age where like they're around kings and queens. So like you got to think that their politics and the way they see the world is a little bit backward, to say the least. But yeah, the Daily Mail already getting on to this. The newspaper is no friend to the couple. And already headlines are splashing the pages. Back to basics at their $14.5 million mansion. Like, again, you can still like. There's no like defense to be made for them, like, oh, they're paupers, like they're put out on the street, and like it's hard to feel sympathy for them when they claim about money, but like you can still want to like kill yourself and be very, very rich, and it's like on paper.
Who cares how much money you have if you have a sad life? I mean, what I feel like most of the reason people say they want to be rich is not because they actually care about the money. It's like they think it'll bring them happiness, which clearly is not the case here.
Yeah, and I mean, some cases, like, especially with celebrity and fame and all this stuff, like, the money can even make it worse. So that is a pretty important thing to realize. So one of the reasons this interview will be so damaging is that Prince Harry's marriage to a biracial woman really meant something to black and mixed-race British people. In 2018, New York Times interviewed Shego Lengolo, an 11-year-old black girl from southeast London, who looked at Meghan as a version of herself, trying to find a place for herself among its racial codes in society. She bristled at criticism of the new Duchess and took it very personally. She was really overjoyed at the notion of a mixed-race prince or princess, and there's nothing that racist people can do about it. They might as well get used to it. And she's the writer of this in the New York Times said that she hated to think of how Shego will react to this interview. Just like seeing just the first mixed race person, it's like standing next to a black mom in the Buckingham Palace in the like Westminster Abbey or whatever, and seeing that and having her just get chewed up and spit out in such a way like that, it was really rough. So yeah, got to be a very, very tight situation for sure. But again, I want to end this segment here by giving a big shout out to Oprah, someone who wants to get into broadcasting. Like anyone who like admires like journalism or broadcasting and interviewing anyway, like cannot help but really respect Oprah for the work that she always does and just how much of a complete icon she is. Yeah, on that very, very cool person. So on that note, we move on to the stimulus bill. What are you guys' thoughts about this stimulus bill? Eli, will bring you back in here. What do you thought about how the negotiations have played out?
I think the recent news is I think a Republican asked for the entire bill to be read, which is going to delay it. I mean, I personally don't agree with many parts of the bill. I think, obviously coming from me, I think it's a little bit too expensive. I don't think maybe the costs outweigh maybe the benefits outweigh the costs. I mean, we'll find out. I think inflation. I mean, this bill itself won't cause inflation, but all the previous bills adding on to this bill will definitely affect the country economically. Maybe in the short term a positive, but long term negative. I guess we'll just have to wait to find out. It's going to be signed by Biden within the week, so hopefully money will get out to the people soon.
Yeah, Zach, like it's got to be good to see. Like, there's definitely some good things to admire in this bill, but do you think it's overall a missed opportunity for the Democrats, or do you think the jury's still out on that?
I mean, it definitely hurts to see basically like an entire year go by. I mean, not to know that entire year will go by at the very least that we won't get a $15 minimum wage, but I'm happy it's finally getting signed, and I think, well, there's definitely, I think I don't think anyone is really completely satisfied with the bill. I think, as obviously, Eli's perspective as you would call yourself a libertarian, right?
I guess you could call me that.
Yeah, libertarian. Maybe like more fiscally conservative liberal. Obviously there's disappointing areas in that, and even I can admit there is some sort of, I guess you could say, spending fault. But just coming at from the lefty perspective, I do think there's a lot of missed opportunities. But at the end of the day, money is getting to the people who need it. Is there sort of added fluff that isn't necessary? Yes, but it's not like it's the Democrats' fault. So I'm just sort of happy it's gonna get signed within the week, and I think, in a way, it's sort of like the end of a long-fought battle, but what we really need to be focusing on is HR 1, because that's going to be one of the most important bills for our country's future. So,
yeah, that is definitely a big priority that you got to hope at least the Democrats will finally get themselves pushed on to get rid of the filibuster, because that's definitely going to get filibustered. But it's hard to that'll be probably even tougher for them, because the bill has, I think, higher stakes, and Joe Manchin has made clear time and time again how opposed he is against the filibuster. But
removing the filibuster.
Yeah. So this bill.
What a weird. How could you actually think that? Unironically.
What is the for just in general?
Why?
West people in his state are going to be pissed about the filibuster, the institutions of the Senate.
This is what I don't even understand. Okay, so let's say even if you are in favor of the idea of a filibuster, how can you make the argument that people shouldn't even have to talk to filibuster? Because now you can just say you're going to filibuster, and you don't have to do it, and they just
to
can't
be
vote.
Fair, he did say oh yeah, we can make him stand up and talk for a little bit. That's what he was saying, to maybe just disincentivize it.
No, they should. It
should just get rid of it. It's ridiculous.
I agree with Zach. You should definitely have to talk to filibuster. That should be part of the requirement.
Filibuster at all. I would at least not for maybe one day. Because after an entire day of bill discussion, at that, if you're filibustering, people's minds are not going to be changed, and at this point, you're just stalling.
Well, that's how the Senate was designed. The Senate is different.
Oh my god, are you really giving me the fucking cooling? Oh my god, what is the fucking argument? Walsh, you know what I'm talking about, the cooling thing? Oh my god, what do they call it?
Cooling the passions of the populace.
Cooling the pan, the cooling pan, or there's this metaphor you're supposed to put your coffee in this cooling tin. I don't even know. Anyways,
I don't even know.
That is literally complete bullshit. That is true, but you think it's working to this extent?
Yeah, the problem is it was designed wrong.
It's doing the complete opposite. You really think? It doesn't facilitate debate at all. It just stops things dead in their fucking tracks.
Yeah. The point of a filibuster, if there's a really slim majority, it's so that the slim majority can't just ram down their political agenda. I think that was the point of filibustering.
Well, if the slim majority is a slim majority, then the way I see it, you got to get a slim majority if you're the minority next time.
Now, you can't pass any fucking laws.
Yeah, whether it's you got a 55 seat or 50 plus seat, really high numbers, however many Senate seats Obama had in 2009, you can't get anything done.
Yeah, literally the super majority.
Or you're in a situation like Joe Biden with a much slimmer majority, and you still can get anything done. It is a it's you're kind of screwed either way, and it's just no, there's no way to really get anything done, especially with the
Brooklyn Dad Defiant has 900,000 followers.
Yeah, he's a resistance. He's a resistance
what
hero? Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, he's one of the best. But I do want to talk a little bit about this this child tax credit here thing. So this is what
the Mitt Romney thing.
Yeah, and this is a big part of what goes on in the bill. So, they are going to provide most parents a monthly check of about up to $300 per child, obscured by other.
Oh, not 400. 400 is way too much.
Yeah, I think that was what Joe Manchin did in the very the last little bit.
That was his contribution. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and also killing the minimum wage. He actually he actually uses his power. Like progressives, like it's so hard. It's so easy to get like excited about the progressives in Congress, but like, what are they really doing? Like, what are the results they've brought to the table? What is the evidence?
Basically nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Basically nothing. Like that is aside from they shifted the debate. You know, like they definitely did shift the debate.
And this one
and
week,
this is a bill.
Like, I mean, not Joe Biden. Joe Manchin was arguably like the third most important person in the country. Probably
you could argue
he's the most powerful.
You could argue he's the first. Like
maybe even two. I mean, I think the president is always out.
Well, yeah, he's the most powerful person in the Senate.
Just because like
technically, yeah, but like
easily the most powerful person in Congress. I think
his vote is the most consequential.
Joe Biden takes his cues from Joe Manchin about what can and can't go through the Senate. Like that's a fact, and it's like Joe Biden doesn't do anything to change Joe Manchin's mind. Like we've seen that happen time and time again.
Well, Joe Manchin is representing a really red state,
but
West Virginia.
There's some of these areas where, like especially with like $15 minimum wage and stuff like that, that is popular even in places like West Virginia. And I think if you are going on like if you're talking about a bill that's like maybe more divisive along the cultural lines, like I would get that argument. But I think if you're talking about economic
there's no way West Virginia doesn't support this because, I mean, I don't have the statistics. I'm just going off of like logical reasoning. I know for a fact that West Virginia is like literally like the 52nd poorest like territory in America. And no, I'm not saying that incorrectly. Like literally Guam and American Samoa have like a higher GDP per capita than West Virginia. So there's no way a minimum wage hike would not help like at least probably like 20% of the workers there. So how could that not be popular?
Or, have them be fired.
No.
Yeah, okay, no, you have to look at both the costs and the consequences in any decision. And you're only looking at the benefits. You're only looking at the benefits.
You think that the workers in West Virginia, they're just not going to be able to afford any minimum wage workers in the entire state of West Virginia?
You think the small businesses that have been destroyed by the pandemic will be able to afford a wage increase 2x?
I don't know. Do you think that
the current minimum wage in West Virginia, we can probably both agree that $7.25 is a shit wage, but more than doubling that to 15, you think?
It would be.
You think small businesses will be able to afford to pay that?
I don't understand that people could afford it when it was higher according to inflation. So why now? I don't understand.
Because they were just destroyed by a pandemic. Okay. This is not the time to raise the minimum wage.
So definitely
okay. Can we just go through here? So a new poll in February by the One Fair Wage Coalition claims that 63% of West Virginians support raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour again by 2025, which mitigates a lot. It's not even like in the 50s. It's 63.
It's not instant.
There is mitigating effects, and there is time for the government to react to these economic pressures, whatever they may come up. And I'm not saying they're going to come up, but I am saying the way I think, just based on what we've seen.
And it's also inconclusive how many jobs it's going to. I mean, multiple.
Yeah. If a majority of West Virginians support a $15 minimum wage, why doesn't their state legislator just enact it? Why does it need to be done at the federal level?
Because we're talking about.
I don't have the answer to that.
Well, it needs to, but it's better if it's done at the federal level because it affects anybody. But I think it's done. The reason why it's not done at the state level is the same reason why it's not done at the federal level. It's because like you got other interests, like the voters aren't the primary voice.
They also could,
politics.
Maybe they're not. Like I'm like a huge gun rights activist, but I would never vote Republican because I'm not a single issue voter.
And you also got people, you got Republicans who are voting for like different reasons, and you got a massive economic pressure from businesses and business interests, which, and a lot of times, especially in state legislatures, are way more organized than any kind of like voting group made up of actual people, and like really reflect business interests. So they're not going to really.
What do you think that wages would be a really high priority for people that vote? If they were making minimum wage, wouldn't that be a high priority for them if they wanted to increase?
Maybe the disastrous public education system has taught people to not be educated, and they don't really understand, and they just vote
something
Republican.
about this
the education system taught people not to be educated. That's a first that I've heard.
Well, the thing we know about this country is like not many people are like very like vote on like incredibly economic interests anymore. Like our politics have just been completely sucked dry of any kind of talk of materially changing people's conditions. Like that just does not come up in our politics anymore. So it's very, very easy to imagine people not voting with wage in front of mind, you know, like, or maybe voting for some other reason, maybe voting to like say like screw the establishment or whatever the many reasons that people vote for Trump, like for maybe along cultural lines. Like there's a lot of different things that could have been
it's
in
not
here.
that simple.
So but yeah, like this child tax credit, pretty much what we need to know about that is the plan pretty much establishes benefit for a single year, but if it becomes permanent as the Democrats intend, it'll greatly enlarge the safety net for the poor and middle class at a time where volatile modern economy often leaves families moving between those groups. But more than 93% of children, 69 million, receive benefits under this plan at a one-year cost of more than $100 billion. So the bill which is likely to pass. So this is, again, families could get like $5,000 for a family of four, I think is the number, roughly $5,000, which is a very, very significant thing that people don't really give. I think it's like definitely something that you can give credit for. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays in terms of economic stimulation, and I think more interesting politically is, will we see the same movie that we saw play out in 2010 with a much too small stimulus package that Obama like diddled and daddled for ages, for way too long, didn't get any Republican support even though he was begging for it. Kind of similar aspects of that, similar strokes of it we already see happening, but will we see the payoff, which is in 2010 midterms, Republicans absolutely cleaning up and wiping out? Will this be a better case here for the Democrats? I don't know. Zach, what do you think?
Probably not. I don't know.
Like you see the same, Eli. You see the same.
I mean,
I think I don't necessarily want this to happen, but I think Republicans will probably take back the Senate, and they may take back the House. I mean, the House is really close right now. I think they have a chance of taking it back.
Honestly, I think the House is the House is probably more likely to fall than the Senate, because they got the guy Pat Toomey retiring. They got a guy in Iowa retiring. Actually, Joe Manchin, funnily enough, is in a lot of trouble in his Senate seat. But yeah, that is going to be very interesting. And it's also very interesting to see someone like Senator Mitt Romney of like Bain Capital, like business conservative fame, come in and support this child benefit that is literally even larger, even though it would be financed through other cuts to the safety net. So that kind of cancels it out there.
The Mormons like charity.
Yeah, but
I'd rather be giving money to people than to corporations. So
that's charity. Like, I mean, that's kind of more what charity is. Like just giving money, like big, kind of unaccountable groups. You know.
I don't think this bill gives money to corporations, does it?
They all do. They all do.
Yeah, they.
Are you saying that?
I'm sure this.
Actually?
I'm sure this bill gives.
I'm sure because this is how it works. When the bill's about to be signed, every single congressman, they all shove in their little political agenda at the bottom, and then they sign it, and that's what happens.
Yeah, and the vote-a-rama process is, I think, what they call it. Yeah, it's kind of fun to talk about politics and all that stuff, but something that was really kind of blood boiling to watch over this weekend is the Kristen Sinema situation. Really, kind of a fascinating tale. One of the most enduring, kind of sayings about American culture is about going to Washington. So pretty much a tale of the earnest do-gooder deciding to run for office on a pledge of being a voice for the voiceless, and then getting back to the Beltway and becoming a swamp monster, selling out the folks back home. And I don't think there's really been a better example of that than U.S. Senator from Arizona, Kristen Sinema. She really managed to capture the entire trope in one iconic moment that probably will be indelible in our memories for quite a fair bit. Eli, I know Zach, you've seen it. Eli, what was your thoughts on the famous kind of the updated take on John McCain's thumb down, Kristen Sinema's sassy bisexual thumbs down?
I literally have no clue what you're talking about.
All right, we got to put this in here. This was it's a GIF, so I can't really play it on the podcast. So pretty much what happens there, for those of you who actually haven't seen it, I'm putting it there in the chat for you, Eli. But what happens is she pretty much just comes in, saunters through the door, kind of does a little curtsy, does a little dance.
Who said the bisexual thumbs down?
I said that.
She just gave it. Who did she give a thumbs down to?
No way,
the Senate clerk or whatever. What?
I thought I read that somewhere.
Who is this person? I don't understand. What's the thumbs down? I'm missing context.
That's the Senator Kristen Sinema voting no against for the minimum wage. I think.
I like how she did a little. She did a little like the curtsy. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like.
She's just like no.
With her Lululemon bag, by the way.
Yeah. So. Sinema's display is notable not just for respectable, not just because she represents a state Biden won, and not just because she decided to break with her own Democratic colleague Mark Kelly, who's running for re-election. Her vote is also newsworthy for how it caps really one of the most grotesque political journeys in modern history of this country. So,
yeah, de-radicalized.
Literally. Unlike many corporatists in Washington, she did not get her start as a standard issue business-friendly cyborg in a Westworld-style factory at the local Chamber of Commerce. Here is the Daily Poster explains. She was a Green Party icon and social worker who had been elected to Arizona's legislature as a proud, unabashed progressive. She even become a board member of our organization, which was designed to counter groups like the American Legislative Exchange Council and champion a progressive economic agenda. So she was like pretty progressive for a long time in early on. So she explains she got into politics because she saw underprivileged people in her community and became enraged that they weren't able to get past that place of poverty and dependence to a place of self-sufficiency and interdependence. So soon after she created a progressive image for herself in the legislature, she got elected to Congress in 2012 and touted herself as a leading proponent of raising the minimum wage in a state where voters soon after approved such a wage increase. So she tweeted that famously in 2014. So. But as soon as she got comfortable in Washington, she began to change her tune. She voted to help corporate lobbyists to harm lots of the marginalized people she claimed to get into politics to protect. She broke with her party to help the financial industry roll back the already weak regulations passed in the wake of the financial crisis. She became one of the top recipients of campaign cash from predatory lenders and helped Republicans advance legislation to protect those lenders. All in all, she votes for Trump parties about half the time. According to analysis by 538, her elevation to the Senate Banking Committee was considered a big win for Wall Street. And last summer, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce awarded Sinema their annual Abraham Lincoln Leadership for America Award and Jefferson Hamilton Award for bipartisanship. What a cool award to get! Wow, she very, very cool stuff. So, Sinema told when she was a progressive, she was saying that a social worker in an immigrant and refugee community. That's who she said she was. And she cast herself as a defender, a voice for those groups. She voted with the Republicans last month, though, to block survival aid from going to undocumented immigrants. Despite her previous public advocacy for a higher minimum wage, she has been making process arguments for weeks against including the $15 minimum wage in the COVID bill because it's not a budget item. It shouldn't be there. This politically makes no sense. She's not even having the courage to come out and make an argument against the minimum wage. She's just saying, it doesn't follow the rules of the Senate. Like, it's just the cowardly behavior.
What is this about? Oh my God. It's like, she's literally sounds like a Republican. She just goes in and out of caring about rules when it's convenient for her.
That is a pretty common refrain for a lot of these people. That is
well, yeah. I mean, politicians will do whatever is in their own best interest at any given time. So,
True.
Yeah, just
they don't really care about their constituents. They care about themselves.
I don't guess true for all politicians.
Most politicians. That's
very
definitely
few.
the case. Even I'd say pretty much all politicians.
No way. That's just impossible.
In this country, yeah.
Impossible. Okay, maybe. Okay, even at the national level, I would say it's kind of a stress. But you can't say that about people who run for Bernie was he just started off as the mayor of his town. That's not, you don't get in that for the money. He just wanted to help his community.
Well, that doesn't mean that his own self-interest isn't above. What I'm trying to say is his own self-interest is still probably higher than his constituents. Definitely now.
In terms of what he does in Congress.
Just based on like his political career, he's not gonna say something or do anything that would jeopardize his political career.
I mean,
mean,
he's disagreed
as
with
for
people,
what?
so, like, what would he even say?
Like, what do
Well,
you say?
I know before he was like buff. I'm pretty. What's his stance on open borders right now, or like relaxing border
Yeah,
policy?
like that's to be fair. Like there has been some, like changes in the campaign. Because I think in 2015 he was much more. He said open borders was like a Koch policy in 2015, and he was much more pro for open borders in 2020. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like.
I mean,
You
there
could
is an
call it, like,
acceptable
political
range where you can
posturing,
change your
but
opinion, and also there is an electability factor. But I wouldn't say that's like self-interest. Even that, I mean,
Electability is self-interest.
okay, what if that's? I disagree.
and there
I
has
feel
been
like
times there has
in
been times where a
in
lot of these politicians, like I would say, I would give that nod to like people like like Ilhan Omar, like she is definitely like, people who go against the kind of status quo and know they're going to get a lot of crap for it, and do it anyway. Like to me, they have a lot of respect. Like
What about
I
making
definitely
in
respect.
their super blue districts where they have a 0% chance of losing.
But
Okay,
that you
first
can
of
get
all,
the entire Democratic Party turning against you, condemning
wait,
you, and trying
you
to see you
don't
fail. So that's a big thing.
you can't make compromises on some issues to get the important topics through. Like
No. I'm not
that's
talking
not
about a compromise. He like changed his view entirely. He said that open borders was a Koch brothers conspiracy theory, and now he's in favor of it. Like that's not a compromise. That's just a complete reversal.
hold on. He said people saying open border. What do you mean open?
He said
No,
like
I
open
think
borders
in
was
like
like a Koch policy in like 2015.
Was that
yeah,
true?
in the primaries. What do you mean? Is that you think open borders is a Koch brothers conspiracy theory?
I don't know. I mean, the Koch brothers do a lot of horrible shit. So
So yeah, this is a
I mean, I don't think
Instagram.
open borders is one of them.
I
Well,
wouldn't
you have
assume it is. I'm just asking.
like I think the very fair case he had here is like, and it's definitely a view of like a lot of people, like more class based, kind of like more, you could argue like more like reactionary, like left wingers, is that, oh, you got a bunch of immigrants coming in from the border, they're going to like lower wages, they're going to make the situation economically like less feasible. And now I think what he has moved on to, like, I think is greatly explained by this kind of like subhead of this Vox article here. Bernie Sanders was once wary of immigrant workers. Now he's on their side. So that's something that I think he really proves with his performance with, especially like those Western Latino populations all throughout, and especially like people places like Minnesota. Rallied there with a kind of big immigrant population.
His current position that like immigration is good for the economy, I agree with, but the reversal was in his own self-interest because he reversed it because the populist movement was like, okay, open borders are good now.
Well, I think there's also
Like,
something
that's why
like if you're in a move, like it's like not me us was like the big like kind of theory of what he was doing.
He has
and
been
get,
overly isolationist in the past.
and
but
talking with other people and like getting convinced that, oh yeah, like having immigrant workers coming in here and making a united front for better wages would be a positive thing. Like that would be something that is going to end up helping working people in general. And like if he comes around to that position and then ends up changing, like I don't mind personally. Like I don't mind that he has like 3 houses. Like to me, if he had 3 houses and he started changing his rhetoric, that would be more of a big deal. But I don't think he has, so that doesn't bother me.
And how do you know, like, his personal success he could also view as success for more people? Like, from his perspective, him getting elected is his personal success, but also to change the world, he needs to get elected. So,
Well, yeah,
I
obviously.
don't understand how
just-
you could just say flat out it's self-interest.
Yeah,
And especially coming from a capitalist, I would assume like the idea of like, I mean, what do you like? Do you like Ayn Rand?
I mean, I don't think I've read any of her books, but I've heard of her.
I mean, basically like it's like the idea that pursuing your own self-interest is good for everyone. So like,
Well, yeah, no, I'm in the political arena. don't think that's necessarily entirely true. Maybe for Bernie Sanders or some few edge cases, it might be okay, but for the majority of politicians, they're definitely in it for their own self-interest. I mean, look at Andrew Cuomo as an example.
Yeah, like that is definitely a fair point there by Eli. On that note, we are definitely past our kind of like our mark. It's been a pleasure to have both of you guys on once again. But I do want to end today on a great tweet from Eric Erickson, a conservative commentator who once was interrupted from like eating at a restaurant and had to like run for so long. Just he's pretty much like a ham man. It was a funny story. I kind of forgot about that. Like it's funny like Twitter meltdown about a restaurant or something one time.
What are you describing?
I don't even know. But the
tweet
I'm talking about is that so essentially Harry and Meghan have joined the Woko Haram and want to cancel the royal family for not being woke.
Please don't say woke Haram. That is so insensitive.
Holy shit. We will be out joining Woko Haram. We will see you on Tuesday. It's Newsflash.